Okay, guys, so I'm back. I was in China and Korea for like a month, but I'm finally back, and I'm going to start making videos again for you guys. And today, I've got the spoiler for Genesis, which is the second expansion set that's coming out for Argent Saga. So I go in, I review the cards, and I give my opinion. So I hope you like them, and I hope you're glad I'm back. Okay, so starting us off, we got Sarina, Witch of Sealing. It's a 2,000 power unit that costs 3. And it has an arrive ability that reads, you may reveal 2 different spells from your hand. If you do, target unit your opponent controls cannot use Guardian this turn. Not a huge fan of this. It's kind of niche and situational. If you're going for the last attack to kind of win the game and your opponent's got a Guardian, you can use this and whatever. But other than that, not very good. You have to reveal 2 different spells in your hand as well, so it gives your opponent knowledge. I never like cards like that. So, not too great in my opinion. So, moving on. We have Slate Gargoyle, which is a 3,500 power unit with 6 cost, and it reads, when this card attacks, add a unit with cost 5 from your deck to your hand. It also has a ruined ability, you may Offering 5, which is a new effect offered in this expansion set, where you expel 5 units from your discard zone. So whenever it's destroyed, you expel 5 units from your discard zone, and then if you do, you get to put 1 unit with cost 5 from your hand into play for free. So this is really cool. It's pretty unique. The fact that just when it attacks, you get to add a card with cost 5 to your hand from your deck is really cool. It's obviously high cost at 6, but still, I don't know. This card seems good. Offering 5, I don't know if that's expensive or not, just because it's the first time we've seen this, but I could see this seeing some play. Next up, we have Spawn of Bahamut. So it's a 2,000 power unit that costs 3. And it has an arrive ability that reads, you may reveal 2 dragon units from your hand. If you do, search your deck for Altar of the Dragon God and add it to your hand. This card's pretty cool. Altar of the Dragon God's a pretty good augment that red uses. And the fact that you can search it directly with this is kind of nice because you can search this off of Dragonholt. So this seems pretty good. Moving on, we've got Ella the Sky Huntress, which is a 1,000 power unit with 2 cost. And she has an arrive ability that reads, you may discard 1 Sky Raider unit or airship unit from your hand. If you do, target unit loses all abilities and cannot attack as long as you control this card. This card's pretty neat. Not only does it make your opponent lose all of the abilities, but they also can't attack. So this could be very good in the future, mainly because green has a lot of cards that allow you to play cards on your turn. Interacting unit-wise, which is something that a lot of other colors don't do well. So the fact that you can kind of put this on the queue to stop big, scary monsters like Iskander or even Sylphia, it's kind of neat. I like it. So I think this card's going to see some play for sure. Next, we got Black Rose Knight, which is a 1,500 power unit with 3 cost. And it has the Brawler ability, which is a new ability for this expansion set. It's essentially target attack, but only for the turn it comes out, but it also has quickness. So it's kind of a trade-off. You know, it's worse than target attack because you only have it for 1 turn, but also you get quickness, so it's kind of 2 abilities in 1. So that's kind of neat. It also has an arrive ability where it says you may equip target gear from a unit you control to this card. So you swap gears from one of your units that already has a gear attached to it. It says, while this card is equipped with a gear, when this card or a unit adjacent to it attacks, you may draw 1 card, then discard 1 card. So this card's really good for light. This is exactly kind of what the deck likes to do, and it's an added addition to it. You're swapping gears, you're drawing and discarding to fuel your graveyard for cards like Iskander or Quorum War Room. So, very good card. Moving on, we've got Sigil of Loss, which is a 1-cost augment. It says exhaust, pay 1, and put a counter on this card. You can also exhaust, sacrifice that card, and then expel X target cards in your opponent's discard zone. So this card is obviously made to directly counter Aragon. ARG had said that Aragon was going to be suspended because they didn't want to ban it, only because they thought that it's not strong. It's too strong right now because there's no counters to it. So now that they're starting to put some counters out, like Sigil of Loss, where you can expel stuff in their discard zone so they can't put it back on top with Aragon. I think you'll see Aragon come off, and it's still going to be good. The card's really good, but it's going to be less potent because of cards like this. So this is a very good card. It's a great side deck card if you don't want to main deck it, but it's always going to have uses. There's a lot of cards that revolve around the discard zone, so this is obviously a very good card for only 1 cost as well. Next we have Sigil of Exile, which is another 1 cost augment. Same kind of effect. You exhaust, pay 1, and you put a counter on it. So then you can exhaust, sacrifice it, and then expel a target unit your opponent controls with the cost of how many counters are on that card. So this deals with any unit that your opponent has. So this is very good. One thing to note, though, is it does target. So there are cards that make cards untargetable. So that kind of lessens this card a little bit. But still, most cards can be targeted, and they can be dealt with this card. And expelling it is very good. So again, Aragon, you're not going to be able to Aragon stuff back. You know, if you banish your opponent's Sylphia and things like that, it's very good use, very good card. So I'm really liking so far what this expansion set's coming out with. I see a lot of things that could be meta relevant. Next, we have Sigil of Renewal, which is a 1 cost augment where you can exhaust, pay 1, put a counter on it, and then you can exhaust it and sacrifice it and add a target card with cost X from your discard zone to your hand. So it's not just units. You can add anything. So you can add powerful spells back, augments that got destroyed. So, these new augments where you're putting counters on them, they're good. I mean, they're good generic cards. You can't say they're bad. It's just, are they worth it over other cards? So I guess we'll see, but definitely not a bad card. Next is Thief of Valois. It's a 500 power unit for a cost of 1. It has an exhaust ability, and you'll also have to offering 3, so you'll have to expel 3 units from your discard zone. And then you'll expel target unit from your opponent's discard zone. This turn you may play that card as if it was in your hand. So very interesting effect here. So you can exhaust and banish 3 of your units to expel a target unit from your opponent's discard zone. And then you also get to play it that turn as if it was in your hand. So that does mean you still have to pay the shard cost, right? So if say you banish your opponent's Sylphia, you'll then have to tap 4, but then you can play it as your own. So very cool. And it would come onto your side of the field too. So it would stay there and you'd be able to attack. You're not just using the effect. You get to use the unit itself. So very cool card. I don't know if it's going to be played, but again, it's because of the offering ability. I don't know if offering 3 is steep or if it's not steep or not. So very neat. Very cool concepts that this expansion set's coming out with. Moving on, we've got the Greatest Heist, which is a 3-cost augment that has an arrive ability that says expel up to X+1 target cards from your opponent's discard zone, where X equals the number of destroyed towers. So it counts your tower and your opponent's. So the most you can banish is 3, or expel, sorry. And it also says, while this card is on the field, you may play cards expelled by this effect as if they were in your hand. So, kind of just like the Thief that we saw, but instead of exhausting and then banishing 3 from your graveyard, you just get to play this and you just expel stuff from your opponent's discard zone. And then you get to play it from your hand. And you don't have to do it that turn. The Thief, you had to play it that turn. So the Thief wasn't a good 1-drop on your turn. This is really good. And specifically just for dark decks, which pains me because dark is so strong already. But this is a very good card in my opinion. So next we've got Voidfire Desolation, which is an 8-cost spell. And it says destroy up to 1 of each. Target unit, target augment, target shard, target tower. So we have our first card in Argent Saga that can destroy shards, which is really cool. You can destroy any unit. It can be your unit, your opponent. Same thing with the augment, shard, or tower. So if you want to destroy one of your towers to make, one of the guardians live, say you have one of your fire guardians in your hand and you want to make it live so you can destroy a card on the field by targeting your fire tower, That's an option. It's obviously very expensive to play, but it's got a very strong effect. So I don't know. This could be very good, or it could just be way too expensive. But it's really unique effect, so I like it. It's cool. So moving on, we've got Voidfire Dragon, which is a 1500 power unit that costs 3. And it says, while there is a destroyed fire tower, expel 2 or more fire units from your hand whose combined cost is at least 6. Put this card from your discard zone into play and then expel it when it leaves the field. So you can play it from your discard zone. It also has a ruined ability that says, add target expelled fire unit you own, except Voidfire Dragon, to your hand. So essentially, if this gets destroyed, you bring back one of the expelled cards that you maybe banished to put it on the field. It's interesting. I don't know if it's good right now. I'm predicting that this game is eventually going to add cards that trigger. They have effects that trigger whenever they're expelled. So this is a card to look out for if they do add cards like that. It kind of seems like Fire can go that direction, mainly because they have that champion where you can expel cards from your hand to destroy units on the field up to times 500 or something like that. So they have a couple cards that exist with the banish zone and expelling cards. So yeah, pay attention to that. Moving on, we've got a card that I'm going to butcher in its name. It's called Vrskik. Just kidding. It's called Riska, the Scorpion Hammer. That probably wasn't much better. But it's a 2-cost augment, which is a gear. It says equip to target unit. It gets plus 1,000, and if the equipped unit destroys a unit with Guardian in battle, you may switch the equipped unit to active. So this is pretty interesting. I think it's situational, though. But I don't know, maybe as a one-of or something, just for a different name. Could be good. Next, we got Warden of Riska. So this is the guy who's rocking the hammer that we just saw. He's a 2,000 power unit that costs 4. He also has the Brawler ability, so target, attack, and quickness on the turn he comes out. He also has an Arrive ability that says, if there is a destroyed light tower, search your deck for the hammer that we just saw and equip it. So that's pretty neat. You know, you get to search it directly out of your deck. So if you only play one, there you go. You have a card to search it. And this card has Brawler, which is even better. So very nice. I like it. It goes hand in hand with the gear that we just saw, so that's cool. Next up, we got Melody of Ages, which is a 2-cost spell. It says target unit or augment loses all abilities. Then, if there's a destroyed air tower, destroy that card. This is interesting. You know, green or air has a lot of cards that actually deal with augments, which is really cool. To be able to destroy a augment or a unit just for a cost of 2 is really cool. But you do need a destroyed air tower. So I think this card's a little situational. I think there are better cards in air than this, but not bad. Moving on, we've got Songstress of the Cloudsea. It's a 3,000 power unit that costs 6. It says exhaust, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may add a unit among them to your hand. If 2 or more units have returned from your hand from the field this turn, you may put that unit into play instead. Put the rest in your discard zone. So this could be a very strong effect for sure. And air is very good at bouncing cards back and forth, to your hand. So to get that effect off, I don't think it's that hard. The only thing that's a bummer is it's a cost of 6. If it was a cost of 5 or 4 and less power, this card might see some play, but I don't know with that high a cost if it's going to be worth it. Being able to tutor it out with Ayatin by, sacrificing a Garga to bring this out is kind of a cool play, because then you can play it on your turn. But still, I think it's a little too costly. But we'll see. The fact that you can play the unit, if 2 or more units have been bounced to your hand, is really neat, and it could save you in a lot of instances, especially if you rip like a Sylphia or a Garga. So now we have Beckoner of Dreams. It's a 2,000 power unit that costs 5. It has an arrive ability that it says, expel any number of spells with shard drain from your discard zone. Take control of a target unit with cost equal to the number of cards you expelled. So, very low power for such a high cost, but a very powerful effect. Blue has a lot of really good cards that have shard drain. They got the Juggernaut. They've got Ancient Serpent's Breath. They got Tidal Rush. So a lot of really good cards that you play in blue. So this card's going to be live a lot, and to be able to take things that could possibly even be 5 or 6 cost is really cool. I would think that you would play this card, to be honest. Blue doesn't play a whole lot of units. It has a lot of spells that, are countering your opponent, bouncing things back. It plays the control game, so this is pretty interesting. I like it. Next, we've got Return to Slumber, which is a 4-cost spell that has instacast, and it says return up to X+1 target units to the top of their owner's deck in any order, where X equals the number of destroyed water towers. So, again, your opponent or your water tower, so the most you can bounce is 3. This card's nuts, in my opinion. The fact that you can bounce up to 3 target units to the top of the deck, it's not to your opponent's hand, just for a cost of 4 is really good. Like, this card's nuts, in my opinion. I think this is an instant add in blue. So in this set, we actually get 5 new towers. So, let's go over them. The first one is Tower of Surging Flames. It's a 1,500 power fire tower. So the original fire tower was 1,000, so you get a little more defense here. It says use only if your spirit or champion is fire. So you need to be running a fire champion or spirit to actually even play this tower. It says when this card is destroyed, you may deal 1,500 to all units your opponent controls. Use this effect only if you have more destroyed towers than your opponent. So all of the new towers have that last kind of line where you can only use it if you have more destroyed towers than your opponent. That's a pretty big drawback in my opinion. I know there are cards that can destroy units like GZ, and I think that makes these a little more playable. But in my opinion, to deal 1,500 to all units, I don't think it's worth having that drawback of only being able to use that effect if you have more destroyed towers than your opponent. So, I don't know. My opinion on all the new towers is they're not that great, and I don't think I would use them. So the air tower is called Tower of Surging Gales. It's a 1,000 power tower, so it's the same power as, same defense, as the original air tower. Same thing, can't use it unless your spirit or champion's air. And it says when this card is destroyed, you may put the top card of your shard deck into play. So you're kind of ramping up. You're getting shards into play quicker than your opponent, which is good because air uses their shard power a lot to play on their opponent's turn and, sacrifice units for Iatin. You got to exhaust and stuff like that. So it plays into the deck's strengths. So that's good. But again, only being able to use that effect if you have more destroyed towers than your opponent is a real bummer. But the effect's interesting. So Tower of Surging Radiance is the new light tower, and it has 1,000 defense. You can only use it if your spirit or champion's light. And it says when this card is destroyed, you may put a unit with cost 3 or less from your hand into play. So it's essentially making any card in your hand a Yuki. You can come out whenever a destroyed tower is destroyed. So this is for anything. It doesn't need to be a light unit or anything like that. It can be any unit in your hand that costs 3 or less. So that's kind of cool. It's a very cool ability, for sure. But going back to the drawback where you can only use it, I think I don't think you should run this over the original. So Tower of Surging Shadows is the new dark tower, and it actually has 2,000 defense, which is the highest defense we've seen on a tower. You can only use it if your spirit or champion's dark, and it says when this tower is destroyed, you may return a unit with cost 3 or less from your discard zone to the field. So it's essentially a Yami, which is very good. We know Yami's very good. It's one of the best cards in the game. Again, can only use that if you have more destroyed towers than your opponent. So this is the only one that you can really make a case for, in my opinion, but it's because of the higher defense. So a lot of units have 1,000 power. 1500 power for a 1-drop or a 2-drop, and they can break towers. So now they can't break this tower. That's the one reason to run this. The effect is also very good, but the fact that it could be empty is nuts. To me, also, it's very interesting that for 2000 power, the effect is still really good, because what ARG was trying to do was, if it had a lower defense, the effect was supposed to be greater. But in my opinion, this is just as good as any of the other ones, and it has higher defense. So they're really buffing up Dark. So lastly, we've got the new water tower, which is Tower of Surging Torrents, and it's got 1500 defense. You can only use it if your spirit or champion's water. It reads, when this card is destroyed, you may search your deck for a spell and add it to your hand. So this is nuts, in my opinion, the effect. This effect's so good. Being able to search any spell that you want in water, that's super powerful. So if it didn't have that drawback, obviously you add this over the old water tower. But I still don't think you run it. But I don't know. Maybe you'll see it at this next Argent Saga Championship. But to me, the drawback I don't think it outweighs the pros. But the effect here is so good. But anyway, that's my opinion. So now we're going to move on to the legendary cards in this expansion set. And the first one is Harbinger of Varial, which is actually the cover card. He's got 5000 power, and he costs 8. He has the Guardian ability. He can't be targeted by spells, so that's very powerful. He also has this effect that says, flip your champion or spirit face down and restore one of your destroyed towers with the same element as the card you flip face down. So in my opinion, that's super strong. Just having the Guardian ability isn't great. It's not overwhelming. The fact that he can't be targeted is really nice. So he's going to be very hard to get over for a Guardian. To chip down at him, I think he's going to eat up an attack, and they're just going to have to try and, rush through him. But being able to restore a tower like a wind tower or something like that to keep you alive late game could be really devastating. This is really cool. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this played. An 8 cost is very expensive, but if you're playing a control deck, this might make a little bit of sense to play. So the other legendary card that we have in this expansion is Tafiel, which is Fallen Celestial of Rotar. He's a 5000 power unit with 8 cost. He has the Brawler ability, and he also has an Arrive ability that says flip your champion face down, put a unit from your hand into play, so any cost, or flip your spirit face down and put target unit from your discard zone into play. So this card is also super cool. It's got the Brawler ability, which is a nice ability. I think it's a nice addition to the game. And then being able to put anything in your hand for free into play at the cost of flipping your champion face down, albeit, is super strong. And then also being able to put any unit in your discard zone into play just for flipping your spirit face down is also nuts. So, man, this card's really good. This card is really good. I'm also expecting maybe some people to play this too. So, yeah, some really cool additions in this expansion set. So, guys, that was my review of Genesis. It's the second expansion set that actually comes out October 11th, which is 3 days away. So I hope you're excited for it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Zeppelin out.